In 1962, a fleet of dredges rolled into central Florida to fix a river. The plan was simple. Take the Kissimmee, a slow, looping, 103-mile waterway that flooded whenever the heavy rains came, and turn it into a straight, deep, obedient canal. It worked. The flooding along the channel stopped, and the very engineering built to control that water became the reason the wildlife of the valley nearly vanished. Waterfowl, bald eagles, wood storks, largemouth bass, whole marshes gone within a few years, which leaves one strange question hanging over the entire story. Decades later, why did the state of Florida spend $1 billion putting every one of those bends back into the river it had just spent 10 years straightening out? To understand that, you have to see what the Kissimmee was before anyone touched it. For thousands of years, it wandered south through central Florida in tight, looping meanders, a river that was never in a hurry. Its floodplain spread as wide as 3 miles across, and for long stretches of the year that floodplain sat underwater, fed by the seasonal rains. That was not a flaw. That was the entire design. The standing water created a mosaic of wet prairie and marsh, where largemouth bass spawned, where alligators moved through the sawgrass, and where waterfowl arrived in numbers that darkened the sky. Bald eagles nested along the banks. Herons, egrets, and wood storks fed in the shallows. And the Kissimmee did something bigger than feed its own valley. The water that pooled in those wetlands drained slowly south into Lake Okeechobee, and from Okeechobee, it fed the Everglades, the famous river of grass. If you have ever visited the theme parks near Orlando, you have stood at the northern edge of that system. The Kissimmee was the quiet, upstream engine of one of the most important wetland networks on the continent, and almost nobody outside Florida knew its name. Then came 1947. A season of hurricanes drove prolonged flooding across the Kissimmee Basin and into the towns that had grown up around it. Homes went underwater. Livelihoods went with them. And the public response was immediate and furious. People wanted the water controlled, and they wanted it controlled permanently. In 1948, the United States Congress authorized the Army Corps of Engineers to build the Central and South Florida Project, a sweeping flood control program for the whole region. In 1954, Congress specifically greenlit the re-engineering of the Kissimmee itself. Here is the part that everyone missed at the time. The solution on the table was not to manage the river, it was to erase it. Between 1960 and 1971, the Army Corps of Engineers dredged a single enormous ditch straight down the Kissimmee Valley. They called it the C-38 Canal. It ran 56 miles, roughly 300 feet wide and 30 feet deep, a hard, linear channel carved through the heart of a river that had meandered for 103. The winding path was cut down to barely half its length. The canal was then divided by levees and water control structures into a chain of 5 deep, still pools. The river that had never been in a hurry was now a straight, engineered drainage line, and the water that used to spread across the floodplain now shot through and kept moving. Biologists saw exactly where this was heading. Even before the dredging was finished, scientists warned that draining the floodplain would gut the ecosystem that depended on it. Their warnings were on the record. They were not enough to stop the machines. What happened next is one of the fastest ecological collapses ever documented in the United States. When the floodplain stopped flooding, roughly 40,000 acres of wetland below Lake Kissimmee simply dried out. The habitat that had supported all that life was gone within a handful of years. Waterfowl populations fell by 90%. That is not a rounding error, and it is not a typo. 9 out of every 10 ducks and geese gone. Bald eagle numbers dropped by 70%. The population of herons, egrets, and wood storks fell by roughly 2/3. Some fish, bird, and mammal species disappeared from the valley entirely. In plain terms, a straightened river had taken a thriving wetland the size of a small city and switched most of it off. The scale of the wetland loss was staggering. Channelization eliminated somewhere between 12,000 and 14,000 hectares of wetland habitat and erased the natural rise and fall of water levels that the whole system had been built around. The 5 stagnant pools that replaced the flowing marsh held water that no longer moved the way a river's should. And the damage did not stay inside the valley. This was never only about the Kissimmee. Before it was straightened, the river had not been a major source of pollution for Lake Okeechobee downstream. After channelization, that changed. By the 1970s and beyond, the Kissimmee was delivering roughly 25% of the nitrogen and 20% of the phosphorus flowing into the lake. Those nutrients are the fuel for toxic algae blooms. A project sold as flood control for a few Florida towns had quietly become a pollution pipeline into the lake that feeds the Everglades. The consequences had escaped the map the engineers were working from. The people who lived on the river had understood the stakes before any of this showed up in a study. Locals had opposed the channelization from the very beginning because the river was how a lot of them made a living. You would hope that kind of local knowledge would have stopped a billion-dollar mistake before it started. It did not. One longtime resident, Monrad Chandler, described the aftermath in the simplest possible terms. When they channelized the river, he said, the marsh was gone, and once the marsh was gone, so were the ducks, the snipe, and the wading birds. By the time the canal was finished in the early 1970s, the verdict was nearly unanimous. Even many of the people who had once demanded flood control now understood that something irreplaceable had been traded away. So Florida started, slowly, to consider the unthinkable, undoing it. In 1976, the Florida legislature passed the Kissimmee River Restoration Act and created a coordinating council to study whether the river could be brought back. That was the first official admission that the fix had been a failure. But studying a reversal and funding one are very different things, and the real turning point did not arrive for another 16 years. In 1992, Congress passed a Water Resources Development Act that authorized and funded the restoration of the channelized Kissimmee. The plan was audacious. Tear out miles of the canal that the government had paid to dig and coax the river back into the path it had abandoned. Construction finally began in 1999 when crews started backfilling the first 8 miles of the C-38. Pay close attention to what they were actually attempting here, because it explains everything about why this project became a model for the rest of the country. They were not building something new. They were trying to convince a river to remember what it used to be. If this deep dive into how America broke and rebuilt one of its wildest rivers is the kind of story you want more of, take a second to subscribe. This channel covers the wildlife and conservation history of the American landscape every week, and the next chapters are already in the works. Now, the engineering of the reversal was every bit as ambitious as the channelization had been, only pointed in the opposite direction. Over more than 2 decades, crews filled in 22 miles of the C-38 canal, physically burying the ditch they were undoing. They recarved sections of the old riverbed that had been cut off and left to dry. In the end, they restored 44 miles of the historic meandering channel and rehydrated more than 40 square miles of floodplain, including roughly 20,000 acres of wetland. To make it possible, the South Florida Water Management District had to acquire more than 100,000 acres of land along the river at a cost of around $300 million for the land alone. The full price of the restoration came in at over $1 billion, cost shared roughly evenly between the Federal Army Corps of Engineers and the state of Florida. That is the kind of number that would make any accountant wince, and it was the bill for reversing a decision that had once been sold as an improvement. On the 29th of July, 2021, officials held a ribbon cutting on the completed project. After more than 20 years of construction, the Kissimmee was a river again. Then, barely a year later, nature ran the test that no engineer could have scheduled. In September of 2022, Hurricane Ian slammed into Florida and dumped an enormous volume of water across the state. The restored Kissimmee filled all the way to what had previously been its 100-year flood level. Under the old canal system, that kind of surge is exactly the scenario people feared. But the rebuilt floodplain did precisely what the original river had done for thousands of years. It spread out, it absorbed billions of gallons, and it held. The National Geographic explorer Carlton Ward Jr. noted that the river filled to that 100-year mark and did its job naturally, soaking up the water with no loss of property because of the restoration. The extra water storage capacity engineered into the project, roughly 12 million cubic meters of it, was no longer a line item in a report. It was the reason the water had somewhere to go. And the wildlife came back faster than almost anyone predicted. This is the part that genuinely surprised the scientists. When the water returned to the old floodplain, the muck and the choking weeds that had built up in the stagnant pools were flushed away. Sandbars that had been buried for decades reappeared. The dry land trees that had crept in during the canal years began to die back, and the wetland plants that belonged there began to return on their own. Pink-tipped smartweed, horsetail, sedges, rushes, arrowhead, duck potato, and pickerel weed re-established themselves in water that was moving the way it was supposed to. The river's original design had been etched into the landscape the whole time, waiting, and the moment the water came back, life followed it in. The numbers on the recovery are the real story. Surveys now count roughly 50 species of fish in the Kissimmee, close to 70 species of wetland-dependent birds, more than 20 kinds of reptiles and amphibians, and mammals that live only in the rehydrated marshes. The floodplain now supports at least 159 bird species in total, 66 of which depend on wetlands for part of their life cycle. The endangered snail kite, a hawk that feeds almost entirely on freshwater snails, found habitat here again. Paul Gray, a scientist with Audubon, Florida, put the response in the plainest possible way, saying the birds flocked back to the restored areas faster than the team had dared to hope, a real-world case of build it and they will come. Lawrence Glenn of the South Florida Water Management District described the wildlife's return as immediate and genuinely impressive. Amber Moore, an environmental scientist at Florida Atlantic University, framed the deeper lesson that people were able to restore the natural system, and that the natural system, given the chance, knew far more about how to run itself than its engineers ever had. But an honest accounting of the Kissimmee cannot stop at the triumph, because the reversal is not complete, and it never fully will be. About half of the original river still exists as canal, and there is a long backlog of hydrological work left to do. Not every bend could be restored, and that limit is deliberate. Removing the entire straight channel would back the water up too far and raise the flood risk for the people who now live nearby, which is the exact problem the whole project was born from. There is also a slower squeeze arriving from the north. Central Florida, including the sprawl around Orlando, is running short of easily accessible water and drawing hard on its underground aquifer. By 2035, planners expect the region's demand for water to outstrip its supply, and a healthy river is not immune to a thirsty state. Pollution, too, is reduced, but not gone. Researchers believe the restored floodplain is already limiting the size of the toxic cyanobacteria blooms in Lake Okeechobee by filtering nutrients before they reach the lake. Yet the nitrogen load from the upper Kissimmee is still high enough that scientists rank cutting it as a top priority. The river is healing, it is not cured. Still, step back and look at what actually happened here. In the 1960s, the United States government spent years and a fortune convincing itself that a straight ditch was an improvement on a wild river. and that controlling nature was a problem that could be solved with dredges and levees. Half a century later, it spent $1 billion proving the opposite, tearing out the ditch and letting the river bend itself back to life. The Kissimmee is now studied as the largest river restoration of its kind ever completed, a blueprint for undoing this exact kind of damage elsewhere. The clearest lesson buried in that billion-dollar bill is almost too simple. It is far cheaper and far wiser to leave a wild river running in the first place than to straighten it, watch it die, and pay to bend it back. Florida learned that the hard way, one dredge at a time, and then one filled-in mile at a time. The ducks returned, the eagles returned, the marsh returned, and the river, given the chance, remembered exactly who it had always been.